The impacts of climate change, such as droughts and floods, have direct negative effects for local communities and livelihoods, but they can also cascade across national borders via flows of goods, finance and people, posing risks to societies on the other side of the world. In an increasingly interconnected world, no country is fully insulated from the impacts of climate change occurring outside its borders. Complex and cross-border cascading risks call for appropriate responses and transnational cooperation on adaptation. Cascades explores how climate impacts cascade across borders, how they unfold and pose risks to different localities, and what types of responses can address those risks. Our project introduces two frameworks and consistent terminology to enhance understanding of cascading climate risks and to inform adaptation planning and improve governance. The CASCADES conceptual framework helps users to better understand the dynamics of impact transmission at different levels. We explain how the conceptual framework can be used in another video. The Cascades response framework is focused on how different constellations of actors across multiple localities and sectors can address cascading climate risks. It provides a stepwise process for analysing real-world examples of cascading climate risks and enables the identification and selection of appropriate responses to protect against future risks. Here's an example. In 2010, an extreme heatwave in Russia reduced the country's grain harvest by a third. At the same time, record flooding in Pakistan disrupted the lives of 20 million people and caused billions of losses in the agricultural sector. The resulting massive shortfall in grain production in both countries triggered significant price increases in the global food markets. Countries reacted to the crisis differently. Some, such as Brazil, increased local agricultural production, aiming to decrease their dependence on international markets. While domestic adaptation actions like this decrease import dependency and hence vulnerability to price shocks, such responses can add pressure to local systems, for example, by increasing pressure on ecosystems and biodiversity, where increased farming accelerates deforestation and soil degradation. Russia introduced an export ban on grain to safeguard its own food security. However, the shortfall in grain harvest, coupled with restrictions on trade, amplified price rises in the global markets, which in turn exacerbated food security risks for all recipients, including Russia itself. The UK government took a collaborative approach and mobilised emergency funding to assist flood recovery in Pakistan, aiming to address the risk at its origin. However, the government's response at the national level was inadequate and inconsistent, leaving challenges of food affordability unresolved. In the absence of effective policies to manage food inflation, local charities and volunteer-run food banks took a major role in supporting vulnerable individuals and communities. While most responses to the 2010 food security crisis were fragmented and uncoordinated, one could imagine another scenario involving broad collaboration on adaptation governance, where actors in different countries and at different levels coordinated their risk management responses from multiple intervention points. From emergency recovery and increasing adaptive capacity at food production sites in Russia and Pakistan, to introducing regulations in global food markets to avoid trade restrictions, to community-level adaptation in the different places affected by the crisis. Responses to cascading climate risks are shaped by a number of factors, including political constraints, governance capacity, and ability and motivation for collaboration. The response framework helps us to explore and anticipate whether relying on internal adaptation is sufficient to address a cascading climate risk, or broad or targeted collaboration with actors across scales and jurisdictions is necessary, or combining different modalities is the way to adapt in the short term and transition towards resilience in the long term. The conceptual and response frameworks from the Cascades project can help decision makers to achieve this resilience.